What a ridiculous story. Shindo-san looked offended. Arai-san had left the room and showed no signs of coming back. Why did he say such a thing? That one of us would become the doll's sacrifice? Even as a joke, that's too much. I'm going home. Shindo-san gathered his stuff and left the room. I had no right to stop him. Looking around, everyone seemed to want to go home. And there was no sign of the seventh person's arrival. Even if the seventh person came right that moment, the mood hardly screamed for another scary story. What should I do? Maybe I should end the meeting. Wait a little longer. Everyone, could you wait here just a little longer? I just feel like we should, I said. Give me a break. First he freaks us out, and now you want us to stay? Hosoda-san complained. It was just like he said. There was no reason for me to keep them there. I spoke. Sorry. There's no reason for it, but I'm just a little worried about that story. I thought maybe we could talk about what to do. And also... No, that's okay. You were worried about us, huh? We're all friends now, aren't we? Don't make that face. Nobody's gonna die. Well then, I'll see you later. Having said that, Hosoda-san went home. Everyone then followed his lead. See ya! After the last person left, I checked that the door was closed. Arai-san's words repeated in my head. Yeah, that story had to be fake. One of us was gonna die? What a stupid story. There was no way. Right as I checked the door was locked and went to leave, it happened. Emi-chan? Someone called out behind me. It was a sad, trembling girl's voice. My legs shook with fear. Should I turn around? Yes. I slowly turned and looked over my shoulder. Oh, it's just you, Fukuzawa-san. Fukuzawa-san stood there with a troubled look on her face. What do you mean, ugh? I even waited for you so we could go home together. Hearing the flat tone of my voice, she puffed out her cheeks and puckered her lips. Sorry. That's not what I meant. It was just a misunderstanding. What was? What was? You're worried about that story from before, right? She smiled, like she was making fun of me. And you? You didn't wait for me because you're also scared of going home alone? I smiled back. Actually, that's right. We just got to know each other after all. Let's go home together. What should I do? Go home together. Yeah, let's. Great. She approached me looking pleased. We walked down the empty halls of the new school building, side by side. It's already past 8. Fukuzawa-san glanced at the nearby principal's office and was shocked at the time on the wall. Ah, so it was already that time, huh? When I arrived at that room, it looked like it was about to rain, but it looked like it held out. It's gotten pretty late, huh? Yeah. With that, the conversation ended. I didn't know what to say, so I searched for a topic. Fukuzawa-san was cheerful, so I hoped she might come up with something to talk about, but that was probably hoping for too much. Even so, just having her there was helpful. After listening to such a scary story, I didn't think I was brave enough to return home by myself. My feet picked up the pace, and the hall seemed longer than usual. Because the only thing we could hear was the sound of our own footsteps, they sounded even louder than normal, like a bunch of people were following us from behind. All of this was because of the terror that Arai-san had planted. Eh? What was that? I could see a figure at the end of the hall. It seemed to be facing us, beckoning us to come over. What should I do? I probably shouldn't go, right? Keep going straight. Okay, I'll keep going straight. That figure is just a figment of my imagination as well. Fukuzawa-san and I continued straight ahead. Then, the figure suddenly disappeared behind the corner. It didn't disappear. It was just an illusion. Thank goodness. I really was just imagining things. Then we turned the last corner. At the end of the corner, that figure from before was stuck there. It was looking at me, as though Fukuzawa-san was in the way. It was beneath the dim green light of the emergency exit sign. I hurried past, taking care that it didn't enter my field of vision. "You're walking fast, Emi-chan," Fukuzawa-san said. I kept walking without answering her. It was like that thing was staring at my back the whole time. It didn't seem to be following me. Being so late, of course, the student gate was closed. That meant we'd have to use the side gate. The emergency light was on at the end of the hall, and I could see the side entrance. Finally, the exit. I muttered, relieved. Fukuzawa-san looked at me and smiled. Hang on, what was that noise? I could definitely hear something. I turned around. Light shone in from the street lights outside. I could see something intermittently. A figure? Someone was walking towards us from the other side. Emi-chan? Emi-chan? Fukuzawa-san's voice brought me back. Fukuzawa-san was shaking my shoulder. What's wrong? You're soaked with sweat. Then she looked at my face, worried. When I looked again, it was gone. My shirt was drenched, like I jumped in water. My breathing labored. Hey, are you okay? Why don't you sit down for a moment? Fukuzawa-san called out to me again. I'm okay now. Let's go. Although I said out loud, the image of that mysterious figure was burned into the back of my mind. Did Fukuzawa-san perhaps see it as well? What should I do? Should I ask her? No, maybe I shouldn't. Ask her. If Fukuzawa-san happened to see it as well, then that meant it wasn't an illusion. It meant someone was really there. I forcefully broached the topic. Fukuzawa-san, was someone at the end of the hall just now? Her eyes widened and then narrowed as she looked at me suspiciously. She hadn't seen anything. I quickly reworded it. No, I didn't see anything either. That story was just that scary, huh? That must be why I'm so exhausted. Are you sure you're okay? Fukuzawa-san looked at me like she was looking at a guinea pig. It probably wasn't the best idea to keep talking about it. Let's go home. I have no idea how angry the teachers are going to be if they find us here. You're right. Let's get out of here quickly. We put the school behind us, like we were running from something. It really must have been an illusion. I told myself that over and over to convince myself. I'd only seen that strange thing just once, after all. If I really was tired, then I was just seeing things. But I soon discovered that I was mistaken. This was just the start of the terror. The next day, Hino-senpai called me over. I had to tell him about what happened the day before. When I went to the club room after school, he was waiting for me. Hey, Kurata! Good job yesterday. How was it? What should I talk about? The seventh person didn't come. Good. There were no problems, but actually, the seventh person didn't come. So I was only able to hear 6 stories. Hino-san pounded his fist as if to say he'd screwed up. Oh yeah, I entirely forgot to tell you. That's my bad. I meant to ask 7 people, but thinking about it after, I realized that I only asked 6. I meant to apologize to you after, but I forgot. Sorry. What a letdown. Hino-san seriously forgot to ask 1 person? It was such an anticlimax that I had nothing to say. Don't look at me like that, Kurata. I'm apologizing, aren't I? So how was everything else? The story I heard yesterday. Yes, I think everything generally went smoothly. At any rate, everyone knows some truly terrifying stories, hey? I was impressed. But what's up with Kazama-san? He's like extremely dangerous or strange or like he's unable to think with any common sense. Ah, my bad. I thought too many scary stories might wear you out, so that's why I invited him. Hino-san laughed like he'd been expecting me to say that from the start. Is that so? So you're to blame as well. And anything else? Plans after this? Yes. Not about yesterday, but about after this. But I was wondering about how best to proceed. I think it would be better to add illustrations and photos to the article like always, and not just words, which will make it more interesting to look at. I had no idea our school had so many scary stories, so I think other people might not know them as well. Hino-san seemed pleased as he listened to my suggestions. I see. Aren't you just dependable? Well, I'll leave everything up to you. Do it how you see fit and make something great. I found myself somewhat proud that he was leaving such an important role to me. And anything else? Anything else? While I was thinking, Hino-san leaned forward in excitement. So, which was the scariest story for you? You're not gonna tell me it was Kazuma's, are you? Of course not. Sure, at first it surprised me, but after that it fell to pieces. The scariest for me, I'd have to say Arai-san's. I think everyone has differing opinions on which is the scariest. For me, Arai-san's way of telling the story and the atmosphere, and needless to say, that horrible ending, left the biggest impression on me. Arai's story? What story? Hino-san looked at me strangely and tilted his head. Apparently, he hadn't heard what story Arai-san was going to tell. But then, he probably left it up to them what story they were going to tell anyway. I summarized Arai-san's story for him. Yeah, it was a story about a doll. Each year, someone at school is sacrificed to it. Then, if someone is sacrificed this year, that would be the end of the doll's ritual, or so he said. So this Arai, he's the doll's sacrifice? Hino-san nodded as though he'd finally convinced himself. What are you saying, Hino-san? No, that's not it. Arai-san was the one who told us, so he won't be the sacrifice. Plus, at the end, he said that one of us would become the sacrifice, so... Hold on. Just who is this Arai? Hino-san looked at me strangely and interjected. Who is Arai? At that single phrase, I was thrown off balance. Who? Did you invite him? I didn't invite any Arai. I don't know anyone called that. You sure you weren't dreaming? No way. Yeah, you've gotten dreams and reality mixed up. The 6 people I called were Kazuma and Shindo, and then Iwashita, Kiyose, Hosoda, and Fukuzawa. Kiyose? I had no memory of anyone called Kiyose. That person most definitely wasn't there. Kiyose! Kiyose! Kiyose Naomichi from class 3F. He didn't go? Hino-san asked me, his face looking somewhat sickly. That's right. All I could do was nod. I had no idea who that person was. Was this Arai person really there? Yes. I nodded firmly. It wasn't a dream. If I asked the others, they'd say the same thing. That's right. I should ask the others. I'll go and check with the others who heard the story yesterday. Having said that, I fled out of the room, ignoring Hino-san's calls. Was everyone still around? Who should I see first? Fukuzawa Reiko. I decided to go and look for Fukuzawa-san. When I reached her classroom, she was chatting and having fun with some other girls. When I waved at her, she noticed and waved back. Then she ran over. What's up, Emi-chan? Ah, did you come all this way to see me? Listen, something's wrong. We really did hear Arai-san's story yesterday, right? Fukuzawa-san looked at me, worried again. Apparently, my question was overlapping with my actions the night before. What's wrong? Is your head okay? Just answer me. We really did hear Arai-san's story, right? Perhaps pressured by me, she gave a small nod. So she did see him as well. Who should I go see next? Iwashita Akemi. I decided to go and see Iwashita-san. Finding her classroom, I looked inside, and she had her hands on the desk, staring off into space and thinking about something. Iwashita-san? I called out, and she slowly turned to look. Then, a creepy smile appeared on her face, and she motioned for me to come over. I stood by her side and whispered to her. It's about Arai-san. The doll story. The fact that Iwashita-san brought the story up meant that it couldn't have been a dream. She heard his story too. No, not that. I was just speaking to Hino-san. Apparently, he didn't invite Arai-san. Not only that, but he has no idea who he is either. I waited for her response, but she remained quiet and unsurprised. Oh, is that so? But that's not a problem, is it? Because I've been seeing the doll this whole time. Eh? This world is full of dolls. Other than me, they're all dolls. You're a doll too. Look, behind you there's a doll as well. Nervous, I turned around. The memories of the night before flared to life again. Nobody was behind me. Relieved, I turned back to Iwashita-san, and she was grinning evilly. I have no idea how much of what she said she was serious about. Who should I see next? Shindo Makoto. I decided to go see Shindo-san. When I arrived at his classroom, no one was there. Looked like everyone had already gone home. Oh well, I'll give up on him for now. Who should I go see next? Kazama Nozomu. I decided to go see Kazama-san. I made my way towards his classroom. I looked around, but he wasn't there. I thought for sure that it was here. Ah! Suddenly, 2 hands covered my eyes from behind. I am the servant of the devil, someone whispered in my ear. Kazuma-san, quit screwing around. I took his hands off and turned around. Ah! There was a giant cockroach in front of me. Which is to say, there's no way such a thing could be there. I grabbed the giant, in bad taste, cockroach mask. A grinning Kazuma-san appeared from inside the mask. Ah ha ha, you're cute as always. Sorry to frighten you. Oh yeah, to make up for it, next time I'll take you somewhere nice. Just talking to this guy could drive you nuts. Hey, let's go on a date. It'll be fun. How about next Sunday? Of course, that's okay, isn't it? You know what? Don't worry about it. I ran out of the room without listening to what Kazuma-san had to say. Who should I go see next? Hosoda Tomoharu. I went to look for Hosoda-san. When I arrived at his classroom, several students were still there. Is Hosoda-san still around? When I asked someone, everyone started laughing loudly. Hosoda? If you're after him, he's probably in the toilet. He's always in there. Go check the toilets. Huh? Hosoda-san likes toilets that much? Oh well, I'll go check the toilet. Oh! As I turned to leave the classroom, I bumped into Hosoda-san's giant body. He grinned, wiping his hands on a handkerchief. Looked like he'd just finished in the toilet. Oh, if it isn't Kurata-san. How nice. Did you come to see me? We're best friends, right? Having said that, he put his arm around my shoulder. Hosoda-san, I have something important I need to ask you. Do you remember Arai-san's story? When I said that, Hosoda-san stepped away from me and looked creeped out. Don't mention that story again. I'm doing my best to forget about it. And Arai-kun is nasty as well. He was trying to scare us all with that story. So you did hear his story then? When I responded, he stepped back, surprised. What on earth are you saying, Kurata-san? Hosoda-san, have you known Arai-san for a while now? No, yesterday was the first time I met him. We're in the same grade, but I've never seen him before. But there are a lot of people at our school, so what can you do? He tilted his head strangely. Thank you. With that, I exited his classroom. Who should I see next? Kiyose Naomichi. Let's look for Kiyose-san. That way I can check whether what Hino-san said was for real or just a joke. I made my way towards the class he mentioned, 3F. Is there someone called Kiyose-san here? That's me. A voice called out from the corner and someone approached. Was he Kiyose-san? Who are you? I'm Kurata Emi from the newspaper club. Sorry. Before I was done introducing myself, he suddenly put both hands together and deeply bowed his head. Oh no, you work for Hino-san, right? Sorry. I suddenly got a fever yesterday. It was so bad that I went home early. I feel bad. Next time, I'll tell you a really scary story. What's wrong? You're spacing out. No, sorry. This time I lowered my head. Kiyose-san was real, and he didn't come to yesterday's meeting. I bowed my head to him once more and put 3F behind me. After listening to everyone's stories, it was clear that Arai-san was there, and he told that story about the doll. But Hino-san didn't invite him. He invited Kiyose-san, who had a fever and missed it. What on earth was going on? Just who was Arai-san? Should I try and find out? Or should I forget about it? Check it out. Pushing away the chills running down my spine, I checked each of the second grade classrooms one by one. I mean, after hearing that story, I felt like I'd seen something unbelievably ominous. If Arai-san's story was real, then this year's sacrifice might be me. Even though he wasn't supposed to be there, why did he show up without being invited and tell us such a story? I went around all the second grade classrooms. Then I understood one thing. There was no second grader by the name of Arai Shoji. So, who was he? Let's look again. He could be in one of the empty classrooms. I might have overlooked him. Whatever it takes, I have to check. Kurata? As I was checking the second grade classrooms again, someone called out to me from behind. Shindo-san! When I turned around, Shindo-san was standing there. You haven't seen Arai around, have you? I've been trying to find him so I can hit him. Shindo-san's scary. Still, he didn't look well. As he got closer, he was muttering and sighing. And? Did you find him? Shindo-san as well? He also couldn't find him? I shook my head. Is that so? Come with me a moment. Shindo-san called me over behind a pole. Then he started whispering. Looked like it was an awful story he didn't want anyone else to hear. It looks like there's no one in the second grade who goes by the name Arai Shoji. My final bit of hope was crushed at his words. I wanted to know more after yesterday, so I went digging. And so, turns out his story about the doll might be true. Each year, at least one person is sacrificed and dies. That's why I'm looking for him, so I can hit him for saying such a thing. But he's not around. There's no such student here. I can't stop thinking about the last thing he said. That one of us will be this year's sacrifice. Isn't it creepy that the guy who said that doesn't even exist? Oi, Kurata, are you listening to me? That was the last thing on my mind. I could see it behind him, the figure. No doubt about it, it was Arai-san. Arai-san was walking behind Shindo-san. He glanced at us and then disappeared around the corner. What are you looking at, Kurata? Shindo-san turned to follow my gaze, but Arai-san was already gone, so he just looked around, searching. What's wrong, Kurata? Arai-san walked past behind you just now and then disappeared around that corner. What? Shindo-san ran in the direction Arai-san disappeared. I chased after him. As we turned the corner, a figure that looked like Arai-san was descending the stairs. We ran down after him. We reached the bottom, but Arai-san was gone. Emi-chan? Someone whispered behind me. Surprised, I accidentally hugged Shindo-san from behind. What are you doing, Kurata? Sorry, someone's behind me. Before I could turn around, I heard a voice from behind. What are you two doing? It was Fukuzawa-san. Shindo-san grunted in response. I'm looking for Arai, so I can beat the shit out of him. Ah, if you're looking for him, I just saw him. Eh? You saw him? Where? He was walking down the hall just before. When I met his eyes, he said hi. I used to see him around there a lot before that 7 Mysteries meeting. Eh? You knew him beforehand? Surprised, I stared at her. Not really. Every now and then our eyes met, so I thought he might like me. I thought he was the same grade, but he's above us, huh? Hey, Kurata, Arai might actually be a first grader. Shindo turned to look at me. That's right. There was no doubt that he was a student here. I silently nodded at him. Arai-san's a first grader. Fukuzawa-san looked dubious. Yeah, there's no student in the second grade named Arai. I looked, so he's got to be a first grader. But why did he lie about it? Anyway, let's go check the first grade classrooms. Urged by Shindo-san, the 3 of us went to find Arai-san. We went around each first grade classroom. He's not here either. The next class was the last. If he wasn't there... No, there was no way. If he wasn't a first grader, then who was the Arai that we met yesterday? Yeah, a doll! Suddenly Fukuzawa-san screamed. A doll? Shindo-san and I looked in the direction she was pointing. I can't see anything. Shindo-san rubbed his eyes. Yeah, I couldn't see anything either. It's there! It's right there! Frightened, Fukuzawa-san ran off. Oi, Fukuzawa! We chased after her. She said she saw a doll? If so, was she the next sacrifice? Fukuzawa-san ran out into the courtyard and towards the old school building. Then she sat down beside it. Oi, Fukuzawa, what's wrong? I can see the doll. That means I'm the next sacrifice. Shindo-san and I looked at each other. Looking at everything that had happened until that point, we could no longer easily play off Arai-san's story as just a joke. But yesterday, I was the only one who could see it, so... Shindo-san, what are we gonna do? Don't ask me. He was also confused. I'm going to die, Fukuzawa-san muttered. What should we do? The silence briefly continued. Isn't there something we can do? Shindo-san was silent. If Arai-san was around, he at least might know something. When I looked up, I could see Arai-san in the window of the old school. Arai-san. Eh? Arai? Shindo-san said, following my gaze. Let's go! He yelled and ran into the old school building. I picked Fukuzawa-san up and we chased after him. The old school was dim and chilly. As we proceeded on trembling legs, Shindo-san was waiting at the end of the hall. Shindo-san? It's Arai. Shindo-san jerked his chin towards the next room. We went inside. Arai! Shindo-san screamed angrily. But it didn't look like Arai-san heard him. When Fukuzawa-san entered the room, he smiled creepily. I was waiting for you. We froze on the spot at the unbelievable force he exerted. What do you mean? I finally found my voice. But his eyes never wavered from Fukuzawa-san, and he continued talking. But, Fukuzawa-san, you can't bring things that are of no concern here. No concern? Did he mean Shindo-san and I? He apparently had no regard for us at all. But they did come all this way. Why don't we play a game? For the first time, he looked over at us. You guys vote and pick just one person. Then we'll make that person the last sacrifice. Arai-san transformed into a doll. Show me your human psychology. The doll spoke with a creepy voice. What the hell was this? What should we do? The doll looked like it was smiling. Did someone have to become the sacrifice? I turned to look at Shindo-san. Fukuzawa-san was there, nestled up close to him. The two of them were looking at me. Looking at me. I knew what my fate was.